Casual player accidentally makes a huge discovery that speedrunners missed.
Glitches are synonymous with speedrunning, and over the years, a ton have been found. Some of the most famous are backwards long jumps in Super Mario 64 and wrong warping in Ocarina of Time. And when it comes to
It's so funny seeing those backward long jumps in Mario when they do it up the stairs.
backwards long jumps, the earliest mention of them comes from a November 1996 issue of Famimaga 64. In recent times, speedrun glitches are found by dedicated players that have advanced technical knowledge of how the game and hardware work. Like the hot plate glitch in Dragon Quest III, where by manipulating the internal temperature of the NES, it's possible to affect the hardware in such a way that you're able to create a fully leveled party and warp to the final boss.
It's not even a code you're putting in or like corrupting a save. You just put your machine in a microwave and then you brick it so it gives you what you want.
These types of glitches typically aren't stumbled upon by players playing the game casually, as the requirements are too precise and technical. But, just like an infinite amount of monkeys working at typewriters will eventually produce Shakespeare, casual players inevitably stumble upon glitches that speedrunners miss. One of the most famous cases is that of Boba Skip, where during her first playthrough of Metal Gear Solid, she found a glitch that was previously undiscovered. However, just recently, a casual player stumbled upon something in Super Mario Bros. 2: The Lost Levels that led to the discovery of a skip that speedrunners missed for the last 39 years. This skip is a big deal, as it currently
39 years, bro.
saves almost 20 seconds, and in today's video, we'll be looking
I do love that, right? Like, they discovered it nearly half a decade later, and all it does is remove 20 seconds. But for speedrunners, that is like the holy grail.
at how it was found, the technical side of how it works, what it skips, and if it will ever be hit by a human in a run. On March 12th, Luigi's sidekick was playing Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels on the Nintendo Switch when something bizarre happened. After jumping onto the floating platform, his game crashed. A couple weeks after this, SMB speedrunner and tasser, Simplistic, saw it posted in the NES Dev Discord, so he posted it in the 8-bit Mario speedrunning Discord, saying that a new crash had been discovered, and that he had managed to replicate it on emulator, but needed to look into what was going on. And on further investigation, he figured out what was happening. The code used to spawn
I wonder how people find this. Actual autistic dedication. No, it literally is. It's like complete dedication. Like, especially with speedrunners as well, because they'll touch games like decades old to be able to try to get, like, you know, world record.
Bowser and long fire bars had a major flaw. How this works is technical, so to get an understanding of what's going on, let's start with the basics and see how sprites work in Super
39 years is almost 2 decades later. Oh, I meant to say like nearly 50 years.
Mario Bros. 2. The way enemies are spawned is quite straightforward. There's a check that happens off camera as Mario moves through a level, and if an enemy spawn location is ever found inside of the space just off camera, it spawns the relevant enemy sprite and adds it to the active entity list. In regular conversation, the word sprite is typically used to refer to moving objects on a screen, so in this case, the sprites are the characters moving around the game world. However, this definition is a bit more specific on the NES. If we take Mario for instance, while he does move across the screen, he's actually made up of individual squares that are 8 pixels by 8 pixels. And these squares are what are referred to as sprites for NES developers. The artwork you see in
I think the discovery was on accident. Nobody cooks their hardware on purpose. I don't know, man. Speedrunners are a different breed.
side of the squares are called tiles, but all that tiles are the graphics assigned to each sprite. Mario and Luigi are both given 8 sprites with corresponding tiles, but most entities, such as the Firebar and Blooper, are only given 6 tiles. Even the Goomba, who only uses 4 tiles, is allocated 6, with the top 2 serving no purpose, as they don't even have a hitbox. They're just there because the code was architected for these enemies to have 6 tiles. But there are exceptions. Long firebars and Bowser are very large entities, so large in fact that they require 12 tiles to produce their entire sprite. In the basic code for enemies, they are only given 6 tiles, so to solve this problem, Long Firebars and Bowser are given 2 enemy slots in memory instead of 1, which lets them have another 6 tiles. The act of getting an additional 6 tiles isn't easy, as it's not as simple as just spawning another enemy, so
I mean, that makes sense if it's like the final boss of the game, it gets more priority.
So, the developers created a special function called Duplicate Enemy Object. When an enemy is spawned into the game, two things happen. First, it looks up the type of enemy that needs to be spawned from the enemy type list, then looks at the active entity list to see if there is room for it to spawn. The active entity list has room for 6 objects, 5 of which are for enemies, with the other slot being for power-ups and special objects like the vine and flag on top of the pole, but the long firebar and Bowser are treated differently. Since these enemies require 2 slots each, the duplicate enemy object function reserves another slot for them. And aside from holding the tiles
I see DEO and I just immediately think of the Asmongold chat buzzword.
for the extra parts of the enemy, the only job the extra slot has is to check if the first slot the enemy is stored in has been unloaded so it can unload as well. With regular enemies, the game won't spawn them if the enemy list is full, and the same is true for the long firebar and Bowser, except in the case where the list has space for a single enemy.
So they just like spam spawn the same enemy.
The developers never created logic in the duplicate enemy function to check if there is space in the list for the extra slot required for Bowser and the long firebar. But if 5 slots are filled and one of these needs to be spawned, the game will spawn it. So you might be wondering, where does the data for the second enemy slot go? If you look at the range of memory addresses for the active enemy list and enemy type list, there's a single byte between them. And if the active enemy list is full, the game uses the empty byte for the data needed to spawn the extra slot of the firebar or Bowser, and business carries on as usual. So, how does this lead to a crash? When Mario uses a pipe, goes between levels, or transitions to another room, the game runs code that clears out most of the RAM, which includes all of the enemies from the active enemy list and the extra byte. But when the room loops, such as in some parts of Bowser's Castle, the game only unloads the enemies in the active enemy list.
Oh, so he's like force bricking the game, basically. And I'm guessing that when he boots it up again, it just gets rid of all the enemies, so it's just easy win?
The extra byte that gets filled up by the second slot of the large enemies is left alone in this case. What this means is that if you load the duplicate into the free byte, then loop the room and try to spawn the large enemy into the last spot of the list, the byte between lists will already have data in it. The game then looks ahead in memory and tries to find a 0 value, and the first thing it finds with this value is the green Koopa, which is created earlier by stomping on a Para-Koopa. It then converts the Koopa's data to a new value, which causes the game to look for the pointer to the enemy processing code in a place it wouldn't ever look. And if you're wondering what a pointer is, it
overrides the loading slots. I would love if this bug basically just replaced Bowser with just a little Koopa.
just a programming variable that stores the memory address of another variable. After the game converts the Koopa's data, which is supposed to lead it to the enemy type list, it ends up going very far out of bounds and arrives at the data for the special pause timer that plays when Mario takes damage or grabs power-ups, where it then runs the entity handler code. This results in a crash, or as Simplistic puts it, wreaks havoc, as that code isn't supposed to interact with the special pause timer. However, he also made another realization. Right next to the special pause timer in memory is where the player's controller inputs are stored, which meant there was potential for arbitrary code execution. Arbitrary code execution, or ACE, is a programming exploit where players alter the game's memory, then get it to execute the payload they just wrote. And if they could get the glitch to jump the game's execution to controller inputs, there was a chance they could use that small amount of control to write a useful payload. From here, 4 people worked on making the crash do something useful: 3Creepio, Web2000, Simplistic, and SBD Wolf.
Is that profile picture? Who is this guy? Rocky Horror Picture Show. What's his name? British voice actor. He played Pennywise in It. Come on, guys. Someone clutch here. I don't know how I haven't... It's Tim something. Isn't it? Tim Curry. Tim Curry. There we go. Yeah. Tim Curry. Yeah, he's based.
The issue they first had to deal with was that while getting the code to read controller inputs would be helpful, it was also restrictive, as it only gave them control over a single byte of data, so any instruction they wrote would...
Someone in chat just said Eddie Hall. Does he look like Hercules? I don't think so.
Be extremely limited. To test if this would even work, they first loaded some data into RAM with another game, then performed a cartridge swap, then triggered the glitch to execute it, and it worked. In case you don't know what a cartridge swap is, it uses the same premise that the unimplemented stop and swap feature from Banjo-Kazooie uses. On some game consoles, if you load data into RAM...
That's so dangerous though. Like the chance of you like permanently messing up the entire console or just the game.
Then remove the cartridge, the RAM stays active for a short period before it's cleared. And while the Famicom disk system and SMB2 itself clear some areas of memory on boot, there is a small part that doesn't get cleared. So by loading their custom code into that section of memory, they were able to verify that the glitch would execute their payload using the stop and swap method. While investigating this further, 3Creepio noticed that when the special timer gets executed as code, you could get it to run joypad inputs from the player 1 and 2 controllers for a few frames, which allowed for greater control when writing a payload, and once this was discovered, he worked with SPD Wolf to try and remove the need for stop and swap. Creepio then figured out something.
Dude, if we put speedrunners on like something else right now, like ending world hunger, we'd probably have like the solution in about a week and a half.
Else, the horizontal position of the fireballs Mario shoots can set up a payload that only required a single instruction from the joypads. And with this knowledge, they made a task that beat the game in 7 minutes and 44 seconds by warping to the credits after jumping in the lava in 8-4, the final level of the game. This was faster than the any% world record by just over 19 seconds, but the task performs the credits warp in the final level of the game, so you might be wondering if there are other levels it could...
Oh, so he just totally skipped, like, Bowser and everything. It's not even removing Bowser from the game.
...be used on, and if it's
so you basically sweated it that much the game didn't know what to do and just gave you the ending.
...possible to be hit by a human. Since this glitch requires a long firebar or Bowser, that reduces the levels it's even possible on to castle levels. And of the 8 castles, only 4 of them have long firebars, 4-4.
Can you explain this in Fortnite terms? Yeah, sure. So basically, they dropped in off the battle bus, and then the storm sickness came in, but they found a way to actually beat the storm sickness by bunny hopping backwards until they broke the game and got the victory royale.
5-4, 6-4, and 8-4. 5-4 has no enemies aside from the Podoboos, which are the jumping fireballs, so it's very far away from having the requirements. 6-4 doesn't have any power-ups or poison mushrooms, so it's impossible to fill the active entity list, which leaves 4-4. This level has all of the ingredients required for the credits warp glitch: a power-up, long firebar, 4 enemies counting the regular firebar, and a second long firebar. So surely the glitch must work, right? Unfortunately, the first long firebar unloads just before the second Goomba in the hallway spawns.
No!
So while all the ingredients are present...
So technically, it can't be beaten faster because it's all the Goomba's fault.
...they aren't quite in the correct positions. However, for the sake of argument, let's assume they were in position. Due to the technical requirements of this glitch, even if the second Goomba spawned earlier, the glitch wouldn't result in Ace since there isn't a power-up or poison shroom near the Bowser fight, which prohibits the glitch from being triggered a second time. So 8-4 is the only level in the game where the credits warp can happen. But what about other Mario games? Super Mario Bros. Shares a lot of the codebase with the lost levels, but in the entirety of SMB, there isn't a single
How did he
room
make
has
that
the
crouch
enemy
jump, man?
required for the glitch to be executed. But there is another Mario game where the glitch works, and that's All Might
Oh my
Nippon
god,
at
give Bowser a chance. Holy.
SMB. If you've never heard of it, don't be surprised, as it was made for the Famicom.
Is that a guy? Is that a little fella? Is that a little fella? Look at that little fella with the shades on. I thought that was a beard for a second there.
Disc system as part of a promotion.
Why does it look like the egg that Max Mofo was fixated on for a week straight? Why does it look like that? It actually looks the same. It actually looks the same.
Hello, Pyro. I have been watching Irvix for a wee while.
Funny little character. I like that.
Alright, let's test this out.
Hey, have you seen this little guy?
Which guy?
It literally looks like it is the same character. It is the same character. He even has the sunglasses as well.
Look at that. No.
Shut the fuck up! I've seen the Eggway guy.
Look at this little fella on it.
Yeah.
Married man, by the way. We can all make it, boys.
Celebrating the Japanese radio program of the same name. Only 3,040 copies were made, and to get one, you either had to win a lottery or show up in person at the station to buy one. The game
Was that queso on the left? Oh my holy new gen.
contains levels from Super Mario Bros. And the Lost Levels with some changes, but 8-4 from the Lost Levels appears almost completely unaltered, and when the glitch was tested, it worked with only a few changes to the setup. Something odd about this glitch is that it involves Mario using fireballs and jumping into lava, and some users on Twitter were quick to point out that Mario is doing both of these things on the box art of Super Mario Bros. So it appears that the box art of SMB predicted the ace setup in the Lost Levels. This leaves the question of if the glitch has been hit by a human. Currently, some of the task setups use left and right inputs at the same time on the D-pad, which is only possible with a broken controller and is banned on the leaderboard. But while all of this was going on, 3Creepio was working on making this human viable, and he had made
The huge speedrunning drama is insane. The speedrunning situation is insane.
progress. First, he created a task that achieved the credits warp without using left plus right or up plus down inputs. However, this used a technical method to achieve the crash that was out of the player's control. So while it was technically possible for a human, the likelihood of it happening put it out of the realm of possibility. Next, he tried messing with when you use the fireballs, as getting them in the correct memory positions was difficult, as while a crash was possible on this method, it was frame perfect. And his hope was that if he could find a consistent setup, the frame window for the crash would go from a single frame to 4 or 5 frames. Currently, 3Creepio is close to finding a viable setup that works for a human in real time. But as of this video, it hasn't been fully
What is that background there? What is that background?
fleshed out, and
Wait. Oh my god. That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Is that a win though? Oh, holy.
I hit once a pixel and it worked. What?
What?
I don't know how.
that's right, Nifsky hit the setup from a save state on April 4th, and then on April 5th, Lukuki hit it as well.
Yes. Yes.
That is so... Oh my god. No wonder that
let's
took nearly
go.
50 years.
Oh, let's go, dude.
How would you be
All
able
that's
to...
left is for someone to get
Even
it
on
in a full
accident as
speed
well.
run. It may take a while for that to happen, however, as a player would need to get to the final level while being close to world record pace. Any mistake would end their run, so this probably won't happen anytime soon.
I got it.
It won't happen soon, just sweats it out and actually does it the next day.
Come on. That worked, right? Yay! Oh my god! First 7-4X, first ever ace.
He just submits it as like glitchless run and then he gets banned off the forums.
First ever RTA ace full game. There it is, baby. Let's go. 745.
Once again, Nifsky pulls a Nifsky, hitting the skip on his 6th run of the day and being the first person to get a world record with the ace glitch. It's insane to think that a game almost 40 years old had a credits warp found in it because a casual player encountered a crash that speedrunners missed. Speedrunning truly never ceases to amaze me. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next exciting episode.
Yeah, that's insane though. Like, that took nearly 50 years to discover that. And the guy who found this glitch, you never in a million years think I would help discover a speedrun trick, but here I am, lol. He just comes in asking for compensation. Yeah, can I have half the revenue on the video, please?